Some things in life you come to expect: lawns will need mowing, coffee tastes better at sunrise, and peace, real peace, is a rare treasure, especially when you've worked decades to finally earn it. After 20 years of service in the military, I thought I had found that treasure when I moved into Willowbrook Estates, a quiet, well-kept community, the kind of place where neighbors wave politely and weekends are spent tending to roses or reading the morning paper on the porch. It reminded me of neighborhoods from my childhood, safe, predictable, still, or so I believed. But the world has a way of surprising you. The metallic scraping of a key against a lock echoed through the quiet afternoon air. Karen Whitmore, president of the Willowbrook Estates HOA, glanced nervously over her shoulder before twisting the master key in my front door. The lock clicked open with a soft pop. She pushed the door inward, her sensible pumps clicking against my hardwood floor as she stepped inside, uninvited. That's when she heard it. A low, rumbling growl emanated from the shadows of my living room. Two amber eyes locked onto her from the darkness. Before she could process what was happening, 90 pounds of trained German Shepherd muscle launched forward, teeth bared in a warning display that would make anyone's blood run cold. Let me back up and explain how we got to this moment. My name is Marcus Chen, and I moved to Willowbrook Estates 6 months ago, seeking peace and quiet after 2 decades of military service. I brought with me my most trusted companion, Shadow, a retired military K-9 who served 3 tours in Afghanistan by my side. We chose this gated community specifically for its promise of tranquility and security. What I didn't count on was Karen Whitmore, a woman who wielded her HOA authority like a medieval lord ruling over peasants. The trouble started within days of my arrival. I was unpacking boxes when I heard aggressive knocking at my door. There stood Karen, clipboard in hand, her face pinched in disapproval. She informed me in a nasal tone that my moving truck had been parked in the driveway for an excessive duration, violating HOA Code 7.3, subsection B. I politely explained I was still unloading, but she had already started writing up a warning. Over the following weeks, the citations piled up like autumn leaves. My mailbox was apparently 3/4 of an inch too tall. The shade of beige I'd chosen for my front door was aggressively neutral. My small garden gnome collection, inherited from my late grandmother, constituted unauthorized lawn ornamentation. Shadow became a particular target of her scrutiny. Despite being impeccably trained and never barking without cause, Karen insisted his presence violated the reasonable pet size restrictions. I showed her the HOA bylaws, clearly stating dogs under 100 pounds were permitted, but she claimed with a haughty tone that German Shepherds were inherently threatening breeds. She started taking photos over my fence, documenting every moment Shadow spent in the backyard. Her harassment escalated when she began showing up at odd hours, measuring the height of my grass with an actual ruler and photographing my curtains through the windows. The situation reached a boiling point when I received an ominous notice slipped under my door, written in Karen's distinctive purple ink. It stated that the HOA would be conducting mandatory interior inspections for code compliance. The letter claimed they had authority to check for illegal modifications, unauthorized paint colors, and unapproved fixtures. It ended with a thinly veiled threat that failure to comply would result in substantial fines and possible legal action. I knew this was beyond the scope of any legitimate HOA authority, but Karen had gotten away with bullying other residents for so long that she believed herself untouchable. I consulted with my neighbor, Janet Morrison, who confirmed my suspicions. She told me in a hushed tone that Karen had been escalating her tactics lately, especially with new residents. Several homeowners had moved out rather than deal with her constant harassment. Janet also revealed something disturbing. Karen had been bragging at the last HOA meeting about having a master key for emergency purposes. The way she said it made several board members uncomfortable, but no one dared challenge her directly. That Thursday, I had to run errands in town. Shadow was napping on his bed in the living room, the house secured with my state-of-the-art security system armed. I'd installed cameras after Karen's photo-taking sessions became too intrusive. As I pulled out of the driveway, I noticed Karen's silver sedan parked down the street. I thought nothing of it at the time, assuming she was harassing another neighbor. How wrong I was. The security footage later revealed everything in crystal clear detail. 10 minutes after I left, Karen walked up my driveway, carrying her clipboard and that ring of keys. She knocked once, waited barely 5 seconds, then produced the master key. She muttered something the audio picked up as, "Time to catch him red-handed." The lock turned easily, and she stepped inside my home like she owned it. She began photographing everything with her phone, my kitchen, my living room furniture, even the inside of my coat closet. She was so focused on documenting her perceived violations that she didn't notice Shadow rising from his bed. Shadow's training kicked in immediately. He didn't attack, he wasn't commanded to, but he recognized an intruder in his territory. He positioned himself between Karen and the exit, his massive frame blocking her path. The growl that rumbled from his chest was pure intimidation, a warning that she had made a grave mistake. Karen froze, her phone slipping from her trembling fingers and clattering on the floor. She pressed herself against the wall, eyes wide with terror, as Shadow maintained his position, never breaking eye contact. She tried to inch toward the door, but Shadow matched her movement, keeping her cornered without ever making physical contact. His training was impeccable, he knew the difference between detention and attack and executed a perfect hold. Karen's breathing became rapid and shallow. She whispered, "Please, nice doggy," over and over, her voice cracking with fear. For 15 minutes, she remained trapped, too terrified to move, while Shadow stood sentinel. When I pulled into my driveway and saw Karen's car still parked down the street, a cold realization washed over me. I rushed inside to find her pressed against my hallway wall, tears streaming down her face, while Shadow maintained his defensive position. The moment he heard my voice, Shadow's entire demeanor changed. His tail wagged as he trotted over to greet me, the threatening guardian transformed back into my loyal companion. Karen collapsed to the floor, babbling incoherently about HOA inspections and her authority. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911, keeping my voice calm and professional as I reported a break-in. Karen's eyes widened in panic as she stammered that she had every right to be there. I then called animal control, not to report Shadow, but to have them document that my dog had shown remarkable restraint in defending our home from an intruder. While we waited for the authorities, I reviewed the security footage on my tablet, making sure Karen could see herself using the key to enter my home without permission. The police arrived within minutes, followed closely by animal control. Officer Rodriguez took one look at the security footage and shook his head in disbelief. He explained to Karen that HOA authority absolutely did not extend to entering private homes without consent or a court order. What she had done constituted breaking and entering, regardless of how she obtained the key. The animal control officer, after reviewing Shadow's behavior on the footage, actually commended his training, noting he had shown textbook restraint in a home defense situation. Karen tried desperately to spin the situation, claiming she had received complaints about illegal activities in my home. When pressed for details, she couldn't provide any specifics. Officer Rodriguez informed her she was under arrest for criminal trespass and breaking and entering. As they placed her in handcuffs, she shrieked about her position and influence in the community. The officers remained unmoved by her protests. News of Karen's arrest spread through Willowbrook Estates like wildfire. Within hours, my doorbell was ringing constantly as neighbors stopped by to share their own horror stories about Karen's abuse of power. Tom Phillips from Oak Street told me she had entered his garage and photographed his workshop, claiming his tools were a noise violation. Sarah Kim revealed Karen had used her master key to enter her home while she was at work, leaving citation notices on her kitchen counter. The stories kept coming, each more outrageous than the last. An emergency HOA meeting was called for that evening. The community clubhouse was packed beyond capacity as residents demanded answers. How long had Karen been entering homes without permission? Why did she have unrestricted access to a master key? The other board members, finally free from Karen's intimidation, admitted they had suspected her of overstepping but had been too afraid to act. The vote to remove her from the board was unanimous, with even her usual allies distancing themselves from her actions. The criminal case moved forward quickly. Karen's lawyer tried to argue she was acting within her duties as HOA president, but the prosecutor presented overwhelming evidence of her pattern of harassment and illegal entry. Security footage of her entering my home was particularly damning. Multiple residents testified about similar experiences, painting a picture of someone drunk on petty power who believed herself above the law. During the trial, more disturbing details emerged. Karen had been keeping detailed files on every resident, including personal information she had no legal right to possess. She had photographed the inside of at least a dozen homes without permission. The prosecutor also revealed that Karen had been using her position to threaten residents who challenged her, including attempting to place liens on properties for fabricated violations. The judge's verdict was swift and harsh. Karen was found guilty of multiple counts of breaking and entering, criminal trespass, and harassment. She was sentenced to 18 months in prison, 3 years of probation, and ordered to pay restitution to all affected homeowners. Additionally, she was permanently banned from serving on any HOA board and restricted from coming within 500 feet of Willowbrook Estates. But the best part came during the next HOA meeting. Shadow was awarded an official commendation for exemplary neighborhood security service. They even held a small ceremony where he received a special collar tag and a year's supply of gourmet dog treats. The new HOA board, led by the reasonable Janet Morrison, immediately changed the locks on all common areas and implemented strict key control policies. As for Karen, the last time anyone saw her was at her sentencing, when the judge read out her punishment of 18 months in prison and $50,000 in total fines and restitution. Her face went white as a sheet. She swayed on her feet, gripping the defendant's table for support, and whispered, "No, no, no," before her lawyer steadied her. The courtroom sketch artist captured her expression perfectly, a woman who had finally learned that HOA authority has limits and breaking into someone's home has serious consequences. If stories like this hit home, where the little guy stands up and justice is finally served, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. There's plenty more where this came from, and you won't want to miss the next one. Turn on notifications so you're always the first to know when a new story drops.